This PC is seriously old to the point where it can barely run any games. At best, I've only been able to use it like a basic machine for watching YouTube or doing simple tasks like typing documents. But recently, I've been getting really into retro games. I did try using Batacera, and honestly, it works great for gaming. The problem is, it's not very practical. Every time I want to switch back to normal tasks, it becomes a bit inconvenient. So I started looking for a better solution, something that lets me play retro games easily, but still keeps the flexibility of a normal PC. And after some digging, I found a piece of software that does exactly that: simple, effective, and completely free.
Nice.
Let's check it out. The software I'm talking about is RetroArch. Now, this isn't an operating system like Linux. Think of it more like a Steam for retro games. Old console games can't run directly on a PC, so RetroArch works by emulating the original hardware, allowing those games to run just like they would on the real system, but right inside Windows. And the best part? It runs alongside Windows, not replacing it. So you can switch between gaming and normal tasks anytime, no reboot, no hassle. But unlike Steam, the setup process isn't exactly plug and play. There are a few important steps you need to get right. So let's jump into the setup. First, head over to the official site of RetroArch and hit download. It supports pretty much everything: Windows, Mac, Linux, even consoles. But since I'm on Windows 10 64-bit, I'll grab that version. After downloading, just extract the file, open the folder, and launch RetroArch. That's it, no complicated install process. The interface is clean but a bit dull, so I switch on full screen mode and change the theme to something brighter. Instantly feels better. Next, I plug in my Xbox-style controller wired, since this old PC doesn't have Bluetooth. Less hassle, zero input lag. One important thing, I set a shortcut to exit games. I choose L2 plus R2, so anytime I press both, I jump straight back to the menu. And that's all the setup I actually need. No overcomplicated steps, just enough to get everything ready. Now, let's get to the fun part: loading the games. Now let's bring the games in, head over to Import Content, then choose Scan Directory. From here, just navigate to wherever you stored your ROMs. In my case, it's on drive D. One small tip: don't scan everything at once. Instead, keep your games organized by system and scan them one folder at a time. It's cleaner, faster, and avoids errors, so I start with NES scan, then go back SNES scan, and repeat the same process for the rest. Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, PS1. Give it a moment if you have a lot of games. And just like that, everything shows up, neatly organized by system. Simple, clean, and ready to play. Wait, something's not right here. In my ROM folder, I clearly prepared 5 systems, but after scanning, only 3 show up. Where did Sega Genesis and Nintendo 64 go? What's going on? Oh, I almost forgot the most important thing. Inside RetroArch, games don't just magically work. You need cores, emulators. If a core is missing, RetroArch simply can't recognize or run those games. That explains everything. Right now, only a few cores are installed, which is why only 3 systems appeared. So let's fix that. Head into Load Core, download a core. This opens the core downloader, where you'll find a long list of emulators. You don't need all of them, just grab what you actually need. In my case, Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64. Download those, and now we're good. Back to Import Content Scan Directory. Run the scan again, and there it is. All systems now show up properly. Problem solved, but something still feels a bit off. Everything is there, but it looks empty. No cover art, no thumbnails, just a plain list of games. Let's fix that too. Go back to the main menu, Online Updater Playlist, Thumbnails Updater, select each system, and let RetroArch download the artwork. Give it a moment, and now everything looks way better. Game covers, visuals, much more polished. One last thing, RetroArch usually saves your settings automatically, but it's not always reliable. After making a lot of changes, it's a good idea to save manually. Go to Configuration File, save current configuration. Done. To make sure everything runs smoothly, I restart RetroArch just like when you reboot Windows after changing important settings. Now, everything is set, games loaded, cores installed, all interface polished, it's finally time to play. Alright, let's start things off nice and easy with some classic NES games. I just load them up, sit back, and enjoy that nostalgic feeling. Honestly, there's not much to say here. NES games are extremely lightweight, simple in structure, and they just work. No tweaks, no issues, just pure, effortless fun. But now, let's push things a bit further. Before jumping into heavier systems, I want to monitor performance. So I head into RetroArch settings, enable display frame rate, and now I can see FPS directly on screen. Perfect. Let's move on to Nintendo 64. First up, the classic 007 game. I launch it, and suddenly it crashes straight back to the Windows desktop. That's not good. I try again. Same result. After digging around a bit, I realized the issue. The default emulator core, Mupen 64 Plus, isn't compatible with my ROM. Alright, no problem. This is exactly where RetroArch shines. I go back to the main menu, open Core Downloader, and install another emulator, Parallel N64. Now, instead of launching the game directly, I choose Set Core Association and switch it to Parallel N64. Run again, and boom, it works. The game launches perfectly, stable at 60 FPS. No crashes, no glitches. This is a really important point. Different emulator cores have different compatibility. If something doesn't work, don't panic, just try another core. Next, I try Bomberman Hero, a 3D action-adventure game with that signature 90s vibe. Instead of the classic bomb maze gameplay, it leans more into platforming and puzzle solving, and surprisingly, it runs beautifully. And it's the same story with SNES. On this 15-year-old PC, everything runs perfectly. Smooth gameplay, no hiccups honestly, it's better than I expected. But now, let's raise the difficulty a bit. We're stepping into PlayStation territory. These games are more demanding higher resolution, larger file sizes, and more complex systems. So I start with Tekken 3. I select the Beetle PSX core and launch the game, and yeah, something's wrong. An error pops up. Firmware is missing, SCPH5501.bin. There it is. Just like Bato Serra, RetroArch also requires BIOS files for certain systems. Without them, the emulator simply can't read or run the game properly. No BIOS, no game. Luckily, I already prepared the missing file. I go back into Windows, find my ROM folder, and locate the required PS1 BIOS file. Then I copy it into the System folder inside RetroArch. Simple fix. Now let's try again. Launch Tekken 3, and boom, it works. The game starts up perfectly. Everything feels smooth, responsive, and stable. FPS stays close to 60, animations are fluid, and every move lands exactly when it should. And honestly, it feels great. A classic fighting game, running flawlessly on an old machine like this. So yeah, BIOS might seem like a small detail, but it's absolutely critical. Once you get that right, everything just clicks into place. Now tell me, how clean were those dodge and counter combos? Now I decided to push things one step further. PlayStation 2. The big question is, can my Intel Core 2 Duo E8400, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and that old GT210 actually handle it? Let's find out. I've already prepared the PS2 emulator using LRPS2 along with the required BIOS files. Everything should be ready. Next, I scan the game library from my ROMs folder done. Thumbnails and cover art are also updated. First test, GTA San Andreas. I hit run, select the LRPS2 core, and not surprisingly, it fails. The game doesn't launch at all. A message appears in the corner, failed to load content. Alright, let's set GTA aside for now and try something else. Next up, Tekken 5. I launch it using the same LRPS2 core, and this time it crashes even harder. It kicks me straight back to the Windows desktop, and RetroArch completely shuts down. That was aggressive. At this point, I'm not entirely sure what went wrong. Everything was set up correctly. BIOS files, ROMs, emulator core. My best guess is that this 15-year-old hardware simply doesn't support the newer drivers or requirements needed to run PS2 games properly, and honestly, we can expect modern performance from something this old. After testing all of this, I can say that RetroArch is a really interesting piece of software. It's not perfect. Sometimes you have to deal with BIOS files, emulator cores, and compatibility issues, which can be confusing at first, But once everything is set up correctly, it becomes an incredibly powerful retro gaming system. What I really like about RetroArch is that it doesn't replace your operating system like Bato, Terra, or other retro platforms. Instead, it works right inside Windows like a lightweight launcher for classic consoles. You can jump into a game for a quick session, then instantly switch back to work, watch YouTube, or do anything else, all on the same machine. And honestly, that's its biggest advantage. You don't need a powerful PC. You don't need expensive hardware. Sometimes an old computer that everyone has forgotten about is still more than capable of bringing back some truly amazing games. So if you have an old PC lying around, would you give RetroArch a try? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.